Just the name of this place quite likely brings to mind visions of long, pristine beaches, oceans teeming with corals and vibrant tropical fish, dense jungles filled with a variety of mysterious and wondrous creatures. In considering a place like this, it is hard not to think of the diverse and exotic environment of tropical islands and the vast array of peculiar creatures that inhabit them. It's no surprise that a significant portion of the appeal of travel to exotic locales such as Bali is to see these animals and locations in person. Animals have always been a subject of human curiosity. The original practices of keeping animals for display or entertainment date back to ancient times. In our modern era, travel has become far more affordable, and so the amount of people who travel to faraway lands to see the animals that live there has grown, and will only continue to rise. While the influx of tourists from far and wide into Bali brings money and work to the island, there's another side to animal tourism: exploitation. In an ever-growing industry of international visitors seeking new sights and experiences, the locals of Bali have been encouraged to find every way to make use of their native environment to impress or entertain foreigners. While this is great for the economy of the area, increasing income and thus standards of living of many Balinese people, there is little regard for the animals that function as part of these attractions. Far inland from the shoreline vistas Bali is well known for is the bustling tourist town of Ubud. Here, people from many backgrounds come for the food, local craft, and cultural experiences. One such experience offered is the sacred monkey forest. Here, a portion of the natural old-growth forest is conserved in the center of town. According to a 2017 paper by Bragg and Deal, within the bounds of this protected area lives a population of more than 600 long-tailed macaques. These monkeys are considered part of a holy site sacred to the Balinese locals. The site is very popular with tourists, including YouTubers and influencers.
I'm gonna see how close I can get.
Oh, he's trying to chew on your zipper.
And he's like, it's a big zipper. Come here. Good monkey. Good monkey.
Oh, he wants it, Holly?
I fed a monkey. He's looking for snacks.
Oh my god.
So far, this has been way better than expected. I thought the monkeys would be like 10 feet away at closest. They're literally climbing on us. This is amazing.
As remarked by Bragg in the paper, the monkey forest may be seen as an ecotourism destination and an interesting example of wildlife tourism. As I found when exploring this site, the monkey forest is indeed an unusual place. Although it is protected and has an entry fee in a manner similar to a typical national park, Bragg and Deal note that the forest is privately owned and operated. My personal impressions on this place is quite positive, as were many of those interviewed. The monkeys, which are Balinese long-tailed macaques, have been noted in a 1994 paper by Wheatley and Putra to be in decline in the wild. Within the confines of the protected forest, however, the monkeys are carefully monitored, fed, and administered veterinary care when needed. While the motivations of the governing body that preserves this area is religious and profit-driven by nature, the end result is just the same. The area is protected from development, and the population of monkeys for which the place is famous is regulated and conserved. When interviewed, one visitor had this to say: "I quite like the place. It really combined both culture and environment into one thing, and they're protected both like they're just as important as each other. This positive view is generally shared by the scientific community as well, as stated by Howells in a 2022 paper. The monkey forest is an active religious space, top tourist attraction, critical regional economic contributor, core habitat for long-tailed macaques, and an important research and training location. Overall, the Ubud Monkey Forest stands out as an excellent, positive example of tourism and conservation in Bali. Just as monkeys and apes captivate people in how close they are to being human, there is another kind of animal well liked for possessing intellect quite similar to our own: dolphins. These amazing creatures are beloved by many for their antics and uniqueness, and it's no surprise that they draw in large crowds of tourists and photographers. As a tropical island, Bali's coasts are often frequented by dolphins. According to a 2022 paper by Westerlaken, more than a third of all known marine mammal species can be found in the waters around Indonesia. One of the most popular places for tourists to go in Bali in order to see the dolphins is the town of Lovina, located on the northern coast. Westerlaken notes that the town of Lavina began rising in popularity in the 1980s and presented an opportunity that was more humane than visiting facilities where captive cetaceans are kept. Westerlaken points out that this tourist industry has greatly improved the living conditions for locals in the area, but also states that the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in widespread unemployment in the region, since demand for tour guides and watercraft operators effectively dropped to zero. Although the area is beginning to recover again, Westerlaken expresses concerns about how dependent the locals are on the presence of the dolphins. According to the paper, there were more than 200 traditional boats converted to be used for tours in 2011, and Westerlaken estimates that the current number is several times that. While I personally believe that tours to see dolphins in the wild are a far better alternative to seeing them in captivity, I still worry that the boat tour industry is still harmful to the local dolphin population. In a 2003 study, Luceau examined the behavior of dolphins living in an area with a high level of small boat traffic. Luceau states, socializing and resting behaviors were disrupted by interactions with boats to a level that raises concern. Both the duration of bouts and total amount of time spent in both these behavioral states were substantially decreased. This greatly concerns me, as this suggests that the heavy traffic in the Lavina region may be having lasting negative effect on the dolphins' population's mental and physical health. I do, however, find the in-situ viewing of dolphins far more environmentally and ecologically conscious means of seeing these wonderful creatures. Although there is still much room for improvement, and hopefully new legislation on this subject will come forth in the coming years. In any discussion of popular foods around the world, it is never long before coffee is mentioned. It's no surprise that coffee is among the most common beverages consumed worldwide, and that countless regional varieties and preparations exist. Bali is no different, with the island having a particularly unique local specialty known as kopi luwak. This unusual kind of coffee is prepared in a way unlike any other. The coffee cherries are fed to civet cats, who then digest and ferment the coffee beans in their digestive tracts. This is said to make the coffee less acidic and bitter, as the fermentation process changes the flavor of the coffee. Owing to its unusual nature, kopi luwak is very popular with adventurous travelers and influencers.
Oh, it looks very scary.
Okay, so the local delicacy here is poop coffee from this thing. This is an animal called a luwak. So this man feeds the luwak the coffee like berry because it's very sweet. So it eats off the skin, and then the bean ferments in its stomach, and then he poops it out. And then he told me that they take the poop and they boil it, and then they dry it out, and then they boil it again.
Yes.
And then they dry it out again, and then they roast the beans, and then blended them right in front of us. We did a nice pour over to create my first cup of poop coffee. Kind of looks like a raccoon, a cat, and a possum, all at the same time. I'm still not certain what kind of animal it is. Do you think it tastes better than regular coffee?
Yes, you can try.
It's better?
Okay. What makes it better? Because they fermented already in the stomach, and then you can get a little bit sour. And then if you didn't use the sugar, you can get a little bit sweet and then very smooth. You can try.
Very smooth. Okay. It's actually very nice.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't panic. It's organic.
It's organic. Oh, he's so close to me. He doesn't bite, right?
No bite.
No bite. All right. It's definitely smooth.
Yes.
It's probably the least bitter coffee I've ever had. But there's nothing in it. It's just black coffee, no sugar. I actually really like it. Poop coffee. I feel like there has to be some kind of health benefits to it being poop coffee. Probably. Good job, little guy. You made good coffee beans.
When interviewed, many of the staff at varying locations that house civets for the purpose of coffee production give varying responses, though one commonality is that the civets are imported from an off-site breeding facility. I believe that the reason for these inconsistencies is that the staff are aware of the negative perception many foreigners have on the keeping of animals in inhumane conditions, and so they may opt to provide answers that tourists would find more satisfactory and favorable. In a 2022 report detailing the conditions in 16 facilities that produce civet coffee, Hooper notes, "Our findings were consistent between sites in that all civet housing and husbandry provisions were inadequate in meeting basic non-human animal needs." Hooper then stresses the need for a governing body or form of legislature outlining requirements for the humane treatment of these animals. Kopi luwak has been an item of concern for many people the world over in recent years.
Hi, gorgeous.
This cuddly creature is an Indonesian civet cat, an animal whose precious droppings
I think he's pooping. Is he pooping?
Oh yes, there's a pooping.
hold the secret to a luxury coffee craze.
Isn't that kind of icky when you look at that? Isn't that kind of, I don't know. Apparently it's funny.
Funny because people back in the U.S. are willing to pay $90 for a single serving of this exotic delicacy, harvested from a place, well, where the sun don't shine. They call it kopi luwak. And after Jack Nicholson extolled the virtues of his fancy cup of joe in The Bucket List,
Kopi luwak, the rarest beverage in the world.
it spawned a frenzy of demand in the West. So we came to Bali, Indonesia, to better understand the mysterious allure of the most expensive coffee on earth.
Wow, that's a heavy bag.
First stop, a local civet farm.
Arabica.
Run by a woman who goes by Ibu or Mother, Santi. She explains after the animals eat the flesh of ripe coffee cherries,
Okay, I'll try. Sweet.
their digestive systems impart a smooth body and aroma to the beans.
It comes out like that.
Yeah.
And that's the magic stuff.
Historically, civets roamed free on coffee plantations.
And I have 100 plus 2 civets.
102 civets.
But these days, the vast majority of farms cage their animals to control production. Ibu Santi says most of her civets have been in captivity for over 6 years.
Do they ever get out of the cages? No. They're in there all the time.
She insists they are treated well.
My friend.
Your friend.
Yes, to make big business.
But this big business comes at a big price for the cats, according to animal rights groups who say captivity takes a serious toll on the civets. The controversy doesn't seem to scare off Kopi Luwak aficionados, who pay up to $250 a pound.
In this case, quality is not the driving factor for price. It's supply, demand, and hype.
Despite the backlash that many foreigners give due to the circumstances surrounding this product, many Balinese locals and organizations have become very tactful in the way they present their product. Many organizations house a small number of civets at their storefronts, either in comparatively nice housing or tamed individuals that can be trusted to roam freely. It's clear that this showing of these well-treated animals is intended to give people the impression that all of the company's animals are similarly treated. Another tactic is that many organizations state that their coffee is found and collected in the wild. However, a 2021 study by Lachenmeyer finds that this is almost always a fraudulent statement. Still, Kopi Luwak continues to be an extremely popular product for its novelty, and Balinese locals continue to sell it because, due to its high difficulty of production, the coffee brings in a lot of profits. While the actual production of Kopi Luwak is perfectly humane when conducted properly, it is rarely done in this way. Many activists are attempting to work towards new legislation which will mandate standards for the humane treatment of civets held in captivity for the purpose of coffee production. Hopefully, in the coming years, we will see improvements in the treatment of civets as awareness and activism grows. It is not likely that these legislative changes will be overly negative to those who produce the coffee either. In the case that the coffee is made more sustainably and humanely, the civets will be treated better, more people will be willing to purchase it, the companies can charge more for it, and people will develop a more positive outlook towards the product, meaning a net positive for all parties involved. This shift in the way the industry operates is imperative. It is very likely that adventurous and curious people the world over will continue to try this unusual yet fascinating delicacy. As can be seen through these three examples, animal tourism exists on a spectrum in Bali. From the positive and well-preserved environment of the monkey forest, to the in-situ viewing of dolphins, to the rather inhumane husbandry of civets used to produce Kopi Luwak. When considering the treatment of animals in Bali, as well as other places across the world, it is important to make note of the fact that animals are viewed in different ways. Many animals, such as civets, may simply be viewed as a functional animal, just how someone from North America might view a cow, chicken, or other farm animal. These types of animal are typically not subjected to the best living conditions since they are intended to be used to produce an end product. This is one of the issues with wildlife tourism, as people with differing backgrounds will have varying viewpoints on how animals are treated, and one person's opinion on how an animal should be treated may not line up with someone else's. This results in a difficult situation, where what someone may consider perfectly suitable may be insufficient in the eyes of another from a differing culture. Thus, it's very important to keep in mind when traveling to avoid ethnocentrism and similar viewpoints, in which an individual believes the way they do something or would do something is the superior way. Regardless of this, there is still a need for improved legislation regarding wildlife tourism. Together, as travelers and explorers, tourists can drive the change they want, through raising awareness and supporting sustainable business practices. Tourists can change things into what they want them to be. All they need to do is to tell the world what they want.